Welcome to the Faith Film Fan Podcast. Today, my guest is Mykelti Williamson. He's an actor extraordinaire. I mean, this guy's has been in so many roles. He's got more roles than Cracker Barrel, and that's a lot of roles. But we're talking about The Last Rodeo, going to be in theaters May 23rd, and Mykelti is starring in it with Neil McDonough and. I mean, Mykelti, you've been in so many movies. You've been in so many TV shows. I mean, you were Bubba in Forrest Gump. You got shot by John Malkovich in Con Air. I mean, you've been killed by the best. TV shows, movie shows,
Yeah,
Ollie, 12
yeah.
Angry Men, Fences, Free Willy. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. You've been a full-time, professional actor for over 40 years. Talk a little bit about how you came to this role in Last Rodeo.
Well, first of all, thanks to your audience, to the fans. It's a privilege to do what we do, to make movies for you. It's definitely a service industry for me. It's a service to the audience as the final analysis, but that's what it is, man. And if you do it right, you can make a good living while you're at it. But you never forget the audience. That's the most important part.
But you've been doing, I mean, you've been acting in so many different films. You've been doing this for such a long time, and you're a great actor. I mean, your performance in this movie, The Last Rodeo, was fantastic. But just you were Al King, in Ali. I
Don
mean,
King,
Don
yes.
King, and Ali. Yeah, I don't know where Al came in that, but you've done so many roles. So how did you get into this particular movie, The Last Rodeo? How did you
Well,
get up for that?
well, Neil McDonough, who is our first lead, Neil also wrote this script with his friend Derek Presley, and got John Avnet to come in and put his thing on it and agreed to direct us. Uh, Neil called me when he had a vision for this movie and told me what God had put in his spirit. He said, you got to go on this journey with me. I said, I'm there, I'm in. And so, Neil and his team, Kip Conweiser, there's a whole team of people it takes to make a movie. You got first ADs, Linda and her team, Conti. And it's the highest form of collaborative art on the planet. It's where everybody on the set is a filmmaker, but they do this job, they do that one. So you never get cocky about what it is. It's very humbling if you really understand what it is and what a privilege. But what attracted me to this was Neil McDonough, who's a friend. The word talks about a friend who sticketh closer than a brother. And John Avnet, another friend who sticketh closer than a brother. And to get a chance to dance to this beat, the American Cowboy beat, with these guys, I mean, how do you say no?
Yeah, Avnet, he did Fried Green Tomatoes, right? He directed
Yeah,
that.
that's right.
So now I noticed you're not wearing your cowboy hat. I noticed in this film, you're all cowboy, and talk about just how you approach a role. Obviously this is very different from when you're Don King in the Ali movie. Obviously
Right.
each role, you're a different person. You have a different accent. You sound different. You look different,
Right.
and you totally, you know, this was filmed in Oklahoma, Texas, and you look like you just came right from the farm, you just came right off the farm right into the film. Talk a little bit about how you do that. What is it that you do to prepare for a role like that?
Well, on the actor side of things, I mean, there's the director side, there's the costume side. All of it plays into your final interpretation of this human being. But when you say character, I know what people mean, but I never use that word really. For me, it's a human being. And I'm okay if people say character, but if you play a character, that's an excuse to not be real. But in a journey like this, I decide what is one of the most valuable kinds of human beings. What's the most valuable, socially beneficial, culturally beneficial, humanity beneficial human being I can put on screen? where people will see this human being and feel like it was a real person that they know, that they would want to be friends with. And that is a prayerful process. I also have my wife helping me, Sandra. I prepare for every role with my bride. She gets me ready for everything. And it's the language, because the language informs the humanity of the character. And so we just figure out, we see in the script what one journey is, but what's the internal journey? And that's the actor's job. The film's going to show you the physical world they navigated, but internally, what are they navigating? What do they need to fix? What's so screwed up about this guy? Why is he not being honest? When's he going to get this through his thick head? All of those are decisions that you put together in collaboration with a great director like John Avnet, and with a beautiful partner, a writing partner, an acting partner like Neil McDonough. You can navigate those journeys.
So in a script like this, are you word for word on the script, or are you, taking it and putting it into a character well, let's say a human you're creating? I won't say character. I mean, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, of
This
course. Yeah,
this human,
okay.
this person you're playing in the film, this role that you have, are you word for word, or are you kind of creating your own vocabulary that he might add?
Both. Out of respect to the author, you give them everything that's on the page, and then you give them everything that's on your internal digest. Don't just give them what they wrote, give them much more. Elevate everything they wrote and give them much more. Sometimes you can do that with the exact language, and sometimes other discovery opportunities present themselves. So it's both.
So you take two passes, one pass word for word, and then one pass. Hey, can I try a little something? Yeah. How will you do that? How will you actually execute that?
Well, I wouldn't be mechanical like that, two passes for this guy, and then now I'm going to do my thing. It's just, it all comes from your relationship with the filmmakers and the author. Sometimes you may do the most creative off the page version first as a rehearsal and tell them, hey, let's shoot the rehearsal. I want to try something. And then you do that one off the cuff. If there's anything useful in it, you'll hear about it, especially from a director like John Avnet. But John's always ready to go. And we don't usually rehearse with John. We usually just start shooting, because
You do a read through? Do you guys do a read through on this?
well, we've read it. Yeah. We've read it together. Yes. But when we're on the set and we're ready to go, nah, John knows who he's got. You know what I mean? Yeah, he knows who's riding shotgun on either side of him. He's got Neil got his back on one side, and I got him on the other side.
Yeah, well, you're such a talented actor. I mean, I see how easy that would be. Get you and Neil in the same room and just turn on the camera, right? All right, say go. That's all you're gonna have to do.
Yeah, it's the relationship with a such an elevated filmmaker like John makes the work fun. It makes it scary too, because we respect him so much. We don't want to disappoint him. We had 23 days to make this entire movie.
Wow.
That's not a lot of time. So we lived it. And being in Oklahoma and Texas made all the difference in the world, because that's the heartland. Nothing was fake, phony, trucked in. We were trucked in, if anything.
So you show up, you're in Oklahoma, they put on your cowboy hat, put on your glove, get your belt with your name on it or whatever, you're all geared up, right? And as
Yeah.
soon as you put that outfit on, what happens?
Well, as soon as you meet the people in the states of Oklahoma and Texas, as soon as you meet folks, like real folks, you're in a different kind of place. And it's just an amazing opportunity to be your best and to represent the kind of people you're making movies right in the midst of. You're in the heartland, man. That's America, baby. That's the real deal, you know?
I want to ask you, you quoted some scripture. Do you have a personal relationship with Jesus?
Absolutely. Someone asked me on a red carpet recently. He says, if you had if you the choice to have one superpower, what would it be? I said, I already have it. He said, what? I said, Jesus. And he said, drop the mic. I said, if you drop it, you're going to have to pay for it. But that's a drop the mic moment because that's my superpower, man. It's, that the faith journey. Uh, right before we made this film was some of the, right before Forrest Gump, right before this movie, right before Fences was some of the most challenging times in my life. And you always that you're on purpose when you've kept your life clean, you serve him, you serve people because of him. You keep in mind that that you don't want to blow it. Doesn't mean you won't, but you don't want to blow it because you want to represent Jesus, right? So in that journey, man, you will be tested, especially when you work in a place like Hollywood. You'll be tested. Yeah. Your faith will definitely be tested. And my wife, my faith, our children, our family, faith has been tried and proven multiple times. And we thank God for bringing us out the other end.
Hallelujah. Now, I know we all have our faith journey and we grow up in church or whatever, but when would you say you really settled in your life that Jesus became the king of your life? Where it really kind of went from, oh, I talk about it or I say I believe it, but to where it became the way you live.
I was raised in church, and every Sunday I was in church, but church wasn't always in me. I was a mischievous little kid growing up in the South. My stepdad was career Air Force, so we moved around a lot. So you learn how to make fast friends, and you learn to trust God because there's really no foundation. People say, where are you from? I'm not really from anywhere. We moved around so much that there's no foundation. And so my foundation, the constant for me was church, people trying to be good people, and being intentional. So that's kind of a standard that was like poured into me when I was a kid. But I became real serious when I met someone who lived their life for Christ for real. I met a gentleman by the name of Dwight. And Dwight, the way Dwight lived his life and carried himself, he was so serious about Jesus, but not in some like put off kind of way, like preaching to people. I'm not going to be preaching to you. People say, you a Christian? Why would you even ask me that? You can see how I live. You tell me if I am or not. I'm not telling you that. You tell me, brother. Look at my works. Look at my life. So that's the way he lived. And it turned me on so much. I said, man, I don't know what it is you have, brother. I said, man, but I want that. I've got all the money. I've got the nice, expensive car. I'm single. I got money in the bank, but I don't have that. What is that? He said, that's Jesus. I said, what? Stop playing, man. And he was serious, and he just broke it down. He says, no, man, I'm extremely serious. And he broke it down, and I was like, okay, I'm in. And so I've been in ever since, and I'm authentic with mine. You know what I mean? I don't do the churchy style just because everybody else is doing it. If I ain't feeling it like that, my hands are not going in the air. But if my hands go in the air, it's because I'm they're supposed to be there. I was moved to do it.
So you're in a profession now with Angel Studios, obviously, films that have strong faith messages or pro-family, positive values are being portrayed, as we see in Last Rodeo, very positive. It's not really a Christian movie, but it's a very pro-family, positive movie. Um, how do you navigate that? How do you navigate a Hollywood that is anti-Christian, that has elements that are against Christianity and what Christ stood for? How do you navigate that as an actor, and what do you do? Are there roles you turn down? What do you do?
Well, I would love to clarify a couple things, just so you know which page I'm on. When you say Hollywood, there's a lot of believers in Hollywood, a lot of Christ followers in Hollywood. So, and we're not giving up the territory just because the world, there's a faction of people. No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Hollywood belongs to us, but there's a misbehaved faction of people that make this content that is not that useful to other people. It leaves people feeling alienated, feeling like you poured something on them. That is not, that's our alarm. That is not the part of Hollywood that represents me properly, nor you, because you're Hollywood too, because you're in the entertainment industry. And the word, I always keep in mind the etymology of the term entertain. It means to enter and hold captive. If you contain something, held captive. If you retain someone, held captive. If you detain someone, held captive. When we entertain people, we're holding people captive, and they have no idea we have that kind of power over them. And with that comes a tremendous responsibility. And that responsibility is to entertain, hold them captive, but do not injure. Do no harm. Don't press agendas down people's throats. And that's the Hollywood I am, the guy who wants to do it right. And there's a lot more people like you and me out here. So we just have to team up with companies like Angel Studios, because like you say, it's not a Christian movie, it's not a faith movie. It's a really, Angel makes really good movies, and you find characters in those movies on a journey where their faith is being so challenged, you go, how are they going to get out of this? So it's really good movies with characters that are on a faith journey. Will they succeed or will they fail? And if they succeed, how do they get there? And that's what Angel provides, is really good movies, man, that you don't have to hide your family.
Yeah, I felt you and Neil really worked well together in that. I mean, like you spurred each other on, and just the acting in that. There was some really good, really strong moments in there. And I know having somebody working with someone like a Neil, where you guys can kind of go back and forth and go off each other, and grow.
Right.
Have we run out of time here? You need to go on to another one.
You know what? I just added 5, and then I think on the next one I'll figure it out. But an opportunity to work with my friends like Tommy Hanks, like Gary Sinise, like Denzel, like Delroy Lindo, like Al Pacino, you know, uh, like the late George C. Scott, friends of mine that I want to throw down with. You know what I mean? It's always an honor and a privilege, because these guys are giants too. They're not, they're not to be taken lightly. One of my dearest friends is on a very successful television series, and I did an episode that turned into a full season. And then I became a director on that show. But when we met, I told him I was a huge fan of his work. I said, and you blow actors off this show every episode. I said, I'm watching you, man. I'm on point every day, all day. And if I catch you slipping, I'm going to steal your show from you. And he said, let's go. I said, I'm going to blow you off the screen on your own show. And he said, let's go. And we love going at each other. And that's Jason Begay on Chicago PD. He's one of my dearest brothers. He's a good soul, man. He really is. But good people find good people. And everybody else, they find everybody else. So I'm glad I found you, brother. I'm glad I found my way to your audience. I hope you all enjoy the Last Rodeo. We made it for you. And keep making your way back to Angel Studios, okay?
That's right. And we're going to be in theaters May 23rd. Mykelti, thank you for your time. Fantastic.
Thank you, guys.
It was a great interview.
Thank you.